This is RAIN Hamcast podcast number 82, posted December 24th, 2022, introduced by Will Rogers, K5WLR. Many voices have come and gone over the past 30-plus years that Hap Holly, KC9RP, has cranked out ham radio programming. Few of those voices connected with broadcasting stand out like that of outdoors sportsman Mike Jackson. We're going to make this RAIN Hamcast podcast a little festive with a reading Mike Jackson recorded in the Radio Amateur Information Network almost 30 years ago. It's a reading of A Ham's Christmas, written by Walter A. Tompkins, K6ATX.
A Ham's Christmas by the late Walter A. Tompkins, K6ATX. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and in the ham shack was the warm glow of tubes in the transmitter rack. The logbook was brought up to date with great care in case the FCC might someday be there. XYL and harmonics were snug in their beds. No Tennessee Indians to addle their heads. I plugged in the mic and my new VFO, getting all set for a nice QSO. When from the relays there rose such a clatter, I yanked the big switch to see what was the matter. Then up on the roof, by the 2-meter beam, there came QRM like a heterodyne scream. On Gonset, on Babcock, on Viking, and Elmac, on Ranger, on Collins, on Heathkit, and IMAC. Bias to the grid and volts to the plate. Just watch that S-meter while we all modulate. As I turned on the rig and reached for a dial, from the antenna tuner, Santa slid with a smile. An RF choke he held tight in his teeth, coax encircling his head like a wreath. A bundle of ham gear he had flung on his back. Was that my name on a new power pack? He had a stub nose like an egg insulator, and his cheeks glowed bright red like a hot oscillator. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, laying out all the gear, then turned with a jerk, and laying a wave meter alongside his nose, said, "Please, QSL," and up the feeders he rose. He climbed up that dive hole, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like a jet-propelled missile. But I heard his last signal from the ionosphere. 73! 88! And a happy New Year.
And that's the smooth sound of Mike Jackson from his reading of A Ham's Christmas from the pen of Walter A. Tompkins, K6ATX. But just who is Mike Jackson really? We'll find out after this station ID. I'm Will Rogers, K5WLR. We'll be right back. Another voice often heard in the 90s during these RAIN programs was Chicagoan Angelo Polvere, K9CSO. He was heard in the late 80s writing and reading biographical pieces concerning those heard on the Bear Information Service that Hap founded in 1985 on the Chicago-based Bear Broadcast Employees Amateur Repeater. He was later heard reading an occasional script for Hap's RAIN Report. One of those bios he wrote and read that became known as Bear-ographies featured Mike Jackson, but only at the beginning of his 5-minute bio. Here's Angelo's reading of that bio of Oren Brand, K9KEJ.
This is a Bear-ography, a thumbnail sketch of a member of the Bear Repeater. While 6 o'clock on Saturday mornings may find some folks still fast asleep, devotees of hunting, fishing, and camping in some 34 states will be found tuned to WMAQ 670 on the radio dial, listening to the Mike Jackson Outdoors Show. Not many of his listeners know that in addition to being an authority on saugers in the Kankakee River, walleyes in Petite Lake, grouse hunting, and a myriad of other sporting facts, Mike Jackson is also an amateur radio operator. But Mike Jackson is his professional name. We'll find out in a moment who he really is. When he was 5 years old, our subject was introduced to fishing and the outdoors by his father. Mother, Dad, and the little boy, an only child, would travel all over the country to fish at favorite angling places. At the age of 9, he started hunting. The lad had an innate interest and talent for science, and at the age of 12, got his first amateur radio license. While attending Roosevelt High School in Chicago, from which he graduated in 1961, he would often demonstrate electronics and elementary amateur radio stations at science fairs. After high school, our subject attended Wright Junior College and the University of Illinois at Navy Pier for a time, before enrolling in Columbia College, where he earned a BA degree in journalism and communications. In college, he performed in legitimate theater and acted in movies and documentary films, some of which he produced himself for WTTW Channel 11 when it was still an educational television station. He also did freelance comedy writing for various Chicago radio personalities. After graduating college in 1965, he took a job at a radio station in Chillicothe, Ohio, as a staff announcer. While there, he commuted to Columbus, where he wrote for television and also created material for 2 local stand-up comics. From Ohio, he went to Indiana as news director for a radio station serving the South Bend Elkhart area. At the same time, he was an anchorman on the 11 o'clock television news. It was while he was in southern Ohio that he started an outdoors show, largely at the suggestion of Art Mercier, who for many years was the Chicago radio authority on hunting, fishing, and camping. We are talking about Oren Brand, K9KEJ. In 1968, Oren became news director for a Madison, Wisconsin radio station. There, he ran a team of investigative reporters covering civil rights and campus unrest during that troubled period in such hot spots as Detroit, Newark, South Bend, Chicago, as well as Madison. It was in Madison that Oren took the professional name of Mike Jackson, starting the Mike Jackson Outdoors Show. He also did sportscasting on Madison's Channel 3. In 1970, Oren moved to Minneapolis as news director on a radio station, where he established a regional news bureau, all the while continuing the syndicated Mike Jackson Outdoors Show. In 1973, he returned to Chicago to take over a family-owned printing business, and at the same time, he started an advertising business. All during this period, he wrote prolifically for outdoors publications, both as Oren Brand and also as Mike Jackson. Since 1980, he has been in marketing and advertising in his own firm, Brand Communications, which recently merged with a Rolling Meadows-based advertising agency specializing in consumer and industrial accounts. He has 2 grown daughters, Melissa and Stephanie, 17 and 19. He and his lovely wife, Charlotte, and a cute 5-year-old daughter named Debbie live in Mount Prospect, Illinois. As if all the above was not exciting enough, Oren has flown aircraft within the Arctic Circle, and he drives a Honda motorcycle. He is also a professional photographer who exhibits and sells his own prints once or twice a year, and he voraciously reads 3 newspapers a day and 2 books a week. That's Oren Brand, K9KEJ. This has been a Bear-ography, a feature of the Bear Information Service. I'm Angelo Polvere, KA9CSO.
That's a wrap with a capital W for the December 24th, 2022 RAIN Hamcast podcast number 82. Don't forget to check out the RAIN archive on archive.com. RAIN founder Hap Holly, KC9RP, edits and produces this bi-weekly ham radio hamcast without monetization. Your support via PayPal and feedback on the RAINreport.com are appreciated. RAIN programming is made available under a Creative Commons license. You are encouraged to download, share, post, and transmit the RAIN Hamcast in its entirety via amateur radio. Thanks to Tom Shimizu, N9JDI, for posting a not-for-broadcast version of these podcasts via the RAIN Report channel on YouTube. Copyright 1985-2023 RAIN, the Radio Amateur Information Network. All rights reserved. I'm Will Rogers, K5WLR, bidding you very 73 and 44. Keep on hamming.